Hello! It's another day here in quarantine land. It is Sunday, March 29th here as I'm recording this. I have the same kind of thing to talk about today that I talked about yesterday, and this is what's going on right now in the world of politics as it pertains to the coronavirus, the COVID-19 outbreak, the pandemic that is sweeping the planet right now. We continue to see through social media and the news outlets, the regular media as well, there is a battle brewing right now between the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and governors of several states around the country. Obviously, being in New York myself, I'm going to see the New York politics first. And what we're seeing is that, state politics aside, I think that Governor Andrew Cuomo is doing an amazing gangbusters job being a leader and a voice of reason for the American people right now. His daily briefings are being broadcast probably worldwide at this point, but certainly nationwide. They're available on YouTube, they're available on the news channels. You can see that he is a voice of calm as well as a source of vital information in this state of unknown that we live in right now with this virus and how it's taking over New York State, specifically New York City, Westchester County, those areas down there. And he has, using numbers that are available through science and predictive models, has an idea of how many ventilators he's going to need. He's been very clear about this. He needed 30 to 40, and one time it was 30,000 ventilators. Now he's saying closer to 40,000 ventilators because the curve, right? We look at these graphs, the curve continues to rise. The need of the hospitals at some point down the road, and he's saying 21 days, to where he's going to reach the peak of the need for ICU hospital beds. And what he's saying is that in New York State, he will need up to 40,000 hospital beds. You have our wonderful President Donald Trump a couple of days ago, and I apologize for my slashing sarcasm, but a couple of days ago on the Sean Hannity show, which is a viable news source, of course, on Fox News, he stated in a phone interview that he doesn't believe it. In his infinite wisdom and his knowledgeable base, that he does not believe that New York State is going to need 40,000 ventilators. Now, I believe that everybody would love for the reality to be that we don't believe that this virus is going to be prevalent enough that we're going to need that kind of relief from the federal government. You have the federal government buying up ventilators. They're using the Defense Act now, the Defense Procurement Act, or whatever it's called. I don't have that information right in front of me, but he's using a law to force companies to produce ventilators, and he's going to stockpile them. Now, New York is also stockpiling ventilators right now as well. We have some set aside so that they can be deployed where they're needed, but Governor Cuomo knows how many he's probably going to need if this continues to follow that trajectory. And now we've got our president coming out publicly and saying that he just doesn't believe him. He doesn't think that that's the case, that's not going to happen. Then he continues to ramp the war up. Now he's referring to the governor of Michigan as that woman governor. Can't even remember her name. Talking about how she's not saying nice things about him, so maybe Michigan doesn't deserve aid. He's advised Vice President Mike Pence to not even talk to the Democratic governors and governors that don't really admire Donald Trump or don't say nice things about how he's handling it. This all ends up being this narcissistic game that he's playing, in which he needs to have fealty from all the governors. It's like Game of Thrones or some kind of medieval fantasy in which the king has to sit on his throne and all the governors have to walk into the throne room and kiss the ring. This is not how our government is supposed to run. The President of the United States should not be holding ventilators hostage. The President of the United States should not be picking and choosing which governors he communicates with based on how they're reacting to him in real time. Is this the government that we have now? Now you add to it that he's so reactionary to social media that people in other states are saying, people in New York need to stay where they are. Don't let the New Yorkers out of their state. So now he's floating out ideas that he may be instituting a ban on travel for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Now, Governor Cuomo, to his credit, came right out with his response to that to Ana Cabrera on CNN. It's not even legal. He doesn't even hold that kind of power. As Governor Cuomo referred to it, it's almost like an act of war against the states. And this is where we're at. Our president is so reactionary that he's now delving deeply into divisive politics, but not just at the federal level. Now he's really bringing it to the states. And what he's going to end up doing in the long run is turning the American people against ourselves. It's almost like a civil war that's getting ready to brew. You know, I talked yesterday about the idea of what might happen to our political process in a few months if we start delaying elections. As I talked about yesterday, shortly after I recorded that video, indeed, Governor Cuomo did say presidential primary here in New York State is being moved from April 28th until June. It's the same date as when congressional primary was going to be here in New York. So now we're dealing with the delaying of elections. We're dealing with a virus that has an unknown timeline, right? So yesterday I talked about the possibility of a 4-month timeline based on what was happening in China. Well, 5 days ago or 6 days ago now as I'm recording this, China opened up their movie theaters again, right? That's a nice indicator on a society level of how safe they feel. Okay, let's let people back into movie theaters again, put hundreds or thousands of people together in one place. We're safe enough to do that. That's a good idea. Well, yesterday they changed that. China has now reversed course, and they have now, on a nationwide level, closed down their movie theaters again. That is not a good sign. That means now beyond 4 months, China's still cracking down. They announced new cases today. I don't remember the number right offhand as I'm recording this, but I believe it was in the 50s or 60s of new cases that they were talking about. These are cases now in China of people that have come into China from other countries. It's not community spread. It's people coming back into China and then giving it to other people. This is going to be a long process. It is going to end. This is not permanent. This is not what our lives are going to look like. Eventually, we're either going to have a vaccine or eventually it's going to take so many people and the spread is going to be so broad and so wide that we'll have built up a natural immunity, possibly. There's still a lot of conjecture over exactly how this virus is going to settle in the human species. But now for the bad news. One other thing I want to talk about is Animal Crossing. So I have heard about the coming of Animal Crossing for a while now. They've been talking about it for almost a year and a half, that it was coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I started playing the game a few days after it came out. I've got to tell you, if you don't have Animal Crossing and you are not playing that game and you own a Nintendo Switch, fix it right now. The game is so much fun. For those that don't know what Animal Crossing is, you basically play a human character that is invited to inhabit a deserted island owned by a company called Nook Incorporated. And on this island, you begin to bring in other residents that just happen to be animals, thus the Animal Crossing name. Over time, you build a civilization and a society and ultimately like a city on this island over time. I am just loving it. It is one of those games that takes full advantage of the brain's dopamine reward system. And so you just have just enough positive things that happen, just enough work you have to put into it to get that reward for accomplishing the things you do. I am absolutely loving the game. All 5 of us here in the home, all of us have Switches, all 5 of us have the game. We're interacting with each other, we're visiting each other's islands, we're trading fruits and other things. You can get recipes to create new objects and things to use within your world, and really, really fun game. I am not a game reviewer, so I'm not going to do an in-depth review, but if you are looking for an amazing way to pass the time while you are stuck in home, I highly, highly recommend Animal Crossing. So this has been another episode of the Daily Octane. I know there's not a lot of great things to talk about right now. We live in a weird time in a weird world, but I feel like I want to rip through all the garbage that's going on out there and just give you my opinion. You know, you probably don't agree with everything I have to say. Some of you may absolutely disagree with me fundamentally on every level. But for those of you that appreciate what I'm saying, feel free to like this video. Subscribe to my channel. Go to my website, thedailyoctane.com. I actually wrote a blog post today that's kind of similar to the things that I'm ranting about here, but some people prefer to consume their information in video. Some people prefer to consume it by reading it. So I'm offering both right now. I have all this free time in the world. I can only play so many video games a day. I can only eat so much food. So I'm gonna really scratch this itch I have to be creative and put this stuff out here. If you're liking it, please let me know, because it is time consuming and I would like to know that people are appreciating it. Thank you for watching The Daily Octane. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Be safe, by the way. Be safe.